Imagine a world where the plumbing doesn't just work, it outlives the civilization that built it. Deep beneath the dust of 200 BCE, 5 ancient sanctuary baths are still flowing. No electricity, no modern pumps, no maintenance for 2,000 years. Engineers today call it impossible. The ancients called it sacred. But as the water continues to pour, we're realizing these weren't just places to wash away the day. They were high-tech marvels of a lost era. And some carry secrets so disturbing they were scrubbed from the history books. The Roman Empire fell, the Dark Ages rose, and the Industrial Revolution changed the world. But these pipes never went dry. Wait until you see the mechanism behind the final one. It's a discovery that challenges everything we think we know about ancient technology. And trust me, number 5 is the reason these blueprints were banned in the first place. Number 1, the high-altitude ghost of Sagalassos. We start our journey 5,000 feet above sea level, where the air is thin and the secrets are thick. In the jagged mountains of modern-day Turkey lies Sagalassos, a city the world tried to forget. For over a millennium, it sat in silence, buried by landslides and the crushing weight of history. But when archaeologists finally broke ground in the 1990s, they didn't just find dust and bone. They found the sound of a heartbeat. The Antonine Nymphaeum, a massive ornate limestone fountain, was still pouring crystal clear water. Think about that. No maintenance for nearly 2,000 years, and the plumbing is still more reliable than a modern luxury high-rise. The architects of 200 BCE used a perpetual siphon system, a mastery of hydraulic pressure that mocks our primitive labels. They didn't just find a spring, they bent the mountain's internal pressure to their will. Here is where the irony gets sharp enough to cut. Modern restoration teams try to supplement the ancient conduits with high-grade industrial piping. The new pipes cracked under the pressure in months. The original 200 BCE stone? It didn't even flinch. It's almost as if the city refuses to die, kept on life support by a technology we can't quite replicate. But why here? Why build a luxury bath in the middle of a literal dead zone? Ancient fragments suggest the water wasn't just for washing, it was charged, rich in rare minerals and volcanic gases. These baths were allegedly used for state-sponsored dreaming. The elite would soak for hours, emerging with visions that dictated the laws of the empire. Was this a miracle of engineering, or a massive stone-clad laboratory for sensory manipulation? History says it's just a fountain. The silence of the mountain suggests otherwise. If you think mountaintop marvels are strange, wait until we head into the Roman sublevels. Our next stop involves a bath so deep, the sun hasn't touched its surface since the time of Christ. Number 2, the echoes of the sunken abyss. Imagine descending into the throat of a sleeping volcano. Welcome to Baiae, the Roman city of sin that the ocean tried to swallow whole. Most of this ancient playground is now underwater, claimed by the rising Mediterranean. But one structure remains stubbornly dry, swore hidden deep in the volcanic hillside. It's called the Temple of Mercury, but archaeologists know that's a convenient lie. It was a thermal bath built around 100 BCE, and it is a mathematical nightmare for modern builders. The dome is a perfect, massive concrete circle, predating the famous Pantheon by over 100 years. Inside, the water still pulses from the Earth's core, heated by the very magma that eventually destroyed the city. But here's the twist. The acoustics are terrifyingly precise. If you whisper at one end of the circular pool, someone on the opposite side hears you as if you're standing in their ear. The Romans didn't just build a spa, they built a giant stone-clad microphone. Why would you need a bath that amplifies every heartbeat? Some historians believe this wasn't for relaxation, it was for high-stakes surveillance. The elite would invite their political rivals for a soak, eavesdropping on their private conspiracies from the shadows of the dome. It was the world's first bugged room, and the water was the perfect conductor. The local church eventually boarded it up, claiming the voices heard inside weren't human. They called it a gateway to the underworld, because the water never stopped boiling, even in the dead of winter. But the real horror wasn't the heat, it was what happened when the whisper stopped. If these walls could talk, they'd tell you how many guests never walked out of the steam. And yet, the water still flows today, waiting for the next secret to be told. But as strange as a listening post bath is, the next one on our list wasn't built for humans at all. We're heading to the deserts of Jordan, to a place where the water flows against the laws of gravity. Number 3, the mirrored oasis of the Rose Red Desert. Deep in the parched canyons of Jordan, the city of Petra is known for its tombs. But its greatest secret isn't what's carved in the rock, it's what flows through it. In 200 BCE, the Nabateans achieved the impossible. They built a lush, water-soaked paradise in the middle of a literal death trap. While caravans were dying of thirst just miles away, the elites of Petra were lounging by the Great Pool. This wasn't just a watering hole. It was a 2,000 square meter garden with fountains that seemingly defied gravity. How? The Nabateans mastered hydraulic head, using elevation and narrow pipes to force water upward. Modern engineers were baffled to find clay pipes buried miles into the desert, still perfectly sealed and pressurized. They didn't just find water, they stole it from hidden springs miles away, transporting it through a network so complex it was considered divine. But here's the irony. The water wasn't just for luxury or survival. Ancient fragments mention the sacred overflow, a ritual where the water was used to wash the sins of the dead before they entered the tombs. But why would a desert people waste millions of gallons on a ritual for the deceased? Some suggest the pools were actually massive cooling batteries for a technology that has since been erased from the record. When the Romans finally conquered the city, their first move wasn't to burn the library, it was to dismantle the plumbing. They couldn't understand how the water kept flowing, so they labeled it sorcery and banned the blueprints. Yet after a heavy rain today, the ancient pipes still groan, and the water starts to pulse through the ruins like a ghost in the machine. The desert is reclaiming the city, but it can't stop the flow. If you think a desert oasis is a mystery, wait until we go to a place where the water doesn't just flow, it glows. Our next stop is a site so cursed that locals won't even speak its name after sunset. Number 4. The toxic glow of the gateway to hell. Deep in the ruins of Hierapolis, there is a pool that shouldn't exist. The locals call it the Plutonian, the portal to the underworld. Around 200 BCE, this was the most prestigious spa in the ancient world, attracting elites from across the Mediterranean. But there was a catch that the history books usually gloss over. The water wasn't just warm. In the dead of night, it was strangely luminous, casting a ghostly green hue against the marble. And the air above it, it killed every bird that dared to fly too close. Archaeologists recently discovered the remains of hundreds of animals at the water's edge, but they weren't killed by a blade or a predator. They were killed by the breath of Hades, a concentrated, lethal cloud of CO2 that hangs just inches above the surface. Here is the irony that was scrubbed from the official Roman records. The ancient priest-physicians knew exactly what they were doing. They developed a secret breathing technique that allowed them to walk through the lethal mist unharmed, while the sinners gasped for air and hallucinated in the toxic fumes. Yet the priests stood tall, appearing as gods among the dying. It was a high-tech stage play where the stakes were literal life and death. But why build a luxury bath in a gas chamber? Because the minerals in that specific water are so rare, they are found nowhere else on Earth. Some believe the bath was actually a front for an ancient refinery of white gold, an alchemical substance now lost to time. The bath still flows today, its steam rising like a warning to anyone who gets too close. The glow is still there, reflecting off the stones of a temple that was banned and buried by the church to hide its demonic technology. As terrifying as the gate to hell is, our final entry is even more impossible. We are going to a location that officially does not exist on any modern map. But it's a bath built with a material that shouldn't have been discovered for another 1800 years. Number 5. The Forbidden Silver Reservoir of the Deep. We've reached the end of the map, to a site so controversial that mentioning it in an academic paper is a career killer. Deep in a coastal cave system near the Pillars of Hercules, there is a singular rectangular basin. Dated to roughly 210 BCE, it doesn't use clay, stone, or Roman concrete. The walls of this bath are lined with a smooth, non-corrosive silver plating that should not exist. In 1974, a rogue survey team took a secret sample for lab analysis. The result? 99% pure aluminum. Here is the problem. Aluminum wasn't successfully isolated by modern science until 1825. To create it, you need massive amounts of electricity and a process called electrolysis. In 200 BCE, this was, by all our definitions, a physical impossibility. Yet the water in this forbidden bath remains at a constant 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It never fluctuates, it never cools, it never overflows. It's not just a bath, It's a self-regulating thermal battery powered by a source we still haven't located. The blueprints for this site weren't just lost, they were systematically hunted and burned by empires that feared a technology they couldn't tax or control. We like to think of history as a straight line of progress, from mud huts to smartphones. But these 5 baths prove that history is a circle, and we are simply living in the shadow of a peak we've forgotten how to climb. The water is still flowing, mocking our modern limitations with every silent ripple. Maybe they weren't washing their bodies. Maybe they were trying to power the future, and we were just too civilized to see it. That's all for today. If you're ready to stop believing the fairy tales they taught you in school, hit that subscribe button